The Singapore Grand Prix didn't just shake up the F1 standings. It may have changed the ground rules inside one of the most competitive teams on the grid. When Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri came together on the opening lap, it wasn't just another racing incident. It was a moment that, according to Sky Sports pundit Martin Brundle, could redefine how McLaren's drivers race each other for the rest of the season. Let's rewind to that first lap. Norris made a bold move on Piastri, diving to the inside of turn 3. It was aggressive, opportunistic, and risky, exactly the kind of maneuver that can make or break a race. In the chaos, contact between Verstappen and Norris sent the McLaren wide, and that push led to Norris clipping his own teammate. Piastri wasn't happy. Over the radio, he said, "That's not fair," clearly feeling that Norris had overstepped. But McLaren had a choice to make. Should they intervene and swap the cars back, or let them race? They decided to let things stand. And that, Brundle says, is where everything changed. In Formula One, teams often have unwritten rules, gentlemen's agreements between teammates. Don't risk a crash. Don't fight too hard. And remember that both cars represent the same team. But when the team doesn't call for a swap after contact, it sends a message. It tells both drivers that from now on, it's fair game. Brundle called Norris's move punchy and aggressive, but also said, "This is a motor race." And that line sums it up perfectly. McLaren may have just loosened the leash on their drivers. The internal rivalry between Norris and Piastri could now become more intense, more personal, and a lot more unpredictable. From a championship perspective, the collision didn't cost McLaren much in the short term. They still had the pace to secure strong points, and they even sealed the Constructors' Championship in Singapore. But in the Drivers' Championship, things got tighter. Lando Norris closed the gap to Oscar Piastri, cutting the difference to just 22 points in the F1 standings. Every race from now on matters. Every overtake, every strategy call, every qualifying lap could tilt the balance inside McLaren. The incident also raises deeper questions about team management. For Piastri, who's been calm, consistent, and mature in his rookie and sophomore seasons, this might feel like a shift in trust. If he thinks Norris can race him hard without consequences, he'll need to adapt, either by pushing back or by changing his strategy in wheel-to-wheel moments. For Norris, the message is clear. Assertiveness pays off. He took a risk, and the team backed him. But this kind of internal tension is a double-edged sword. When both drivers are this competitive, it can push the whole team forward or tear it apart. History in Formula One is full of examples. Think Hamilton versus Rosberg at Mercedes, Vettel versus Webber at Red Bull, or Alonso versus Hamilton at McLaren back in 2007. Those rivalries created drama, tension, and sometimes chaos. But they also produced some of the most iconic battles in F1 history. For McLaren, the challenge now is control. Can they manage two drivers at the top of their game without letting emotions or ego get in the way? They're fighting for every point in both championships, and as the F1 standings tighten up, there's no room for costly mistakes. What Brundle is really saying is that the psychological balance inside McLaren has shifted. The team's tolerance for risk between its drivers has gone up. The unspoken rulebook has been rewritten, and when drivers sense that freedom, they race differently. That could make the next few races electric. Expect more intense battles, closer racing, and possibly a few more heart-stopping moments between the orange cars. It's great for the fans, but a nightmare for the McLaren pit wall. As the season moves forward, all eyes will be on how this dynamic evolves. Will Norris keep using that newfound confidence to close in on Piastri in the standings? Will Piastri fight back harder next time, even if it risks contact? And how long will McLaren let them race before stepping in? The Singapore clash might look like a single lap of drama, but in reality, it could shape the rest of McLaren's season, and maybe even influence the final order in the F1 standings. In Formula One, moments like these define rivalries, rewrite relationships, and sometimes decide championships. Norris and Piastri are both brilliant, both fast, and both hungry. But now, the gloves might be coming off.